So it's yours. Thank you. So my name is, as you can see, Marcin, and today I'll be talking about actually a part of this project, of the Klaviyo project, and I'll be presenting with Simon Ensor, a colleague of mine who works at the University of Clermont-Ferrand, Blaise Pascal University. He's not next door, he's in France, in Clermont-Ferrand, and hopefully he can hear us. Simon, can you confirm that?
Yes, je vous entends bien.
Okay, well, perhaps the quality of the speakers is not great, but I think we'll manage. So today we're going to focus on this meaningful communication in English as a foreign language, because this part of the project involves teaching students developing their English language skills, especially French students. They are they are intercultural skills and also digital skills. Klaviyo is slightly broader, but we'll focus on this bit today. So Simon, can you say a few words about, because Simon has been in this project for longer than I have, so now Simon will take over to tell you more about Klaviyo.
Hello everybody. So what I'd like to say about Klaviyo, it's an acronym, and that acronym means Connected Learning and Virtual Intercultural Exchange Research, and it's a network. And that network connects learner affinity of students, teachers, researchers, and we attempt to develop their linguistic, their intercultural, their digital skills and professional skills during the collaboration. Okay, Marcin, okay. I'm ready for the next slide. Mm-hmm. Yes, before we go on to the slide, if you have a Twitter account, then you can tweet me during the presentation, ask me questions, and my pseudonym is Ensor63. That's SENSOR 63. So you can speak to me during the session. Right, next slide, please. Klaviyo. So Klaviyo connects affinities, and it can cross institutional, personal, professional spaces which are online or offline. So we are witnessing more and more a blurring of boundaries. You can see here a group of students. They could be talking about anything. I don't know. We don't know. But that is actually the key to Klaviyo. It's joining affinity across spaces. Thank you very much, Marcin.
Okay. So now about this meaningful and authentic communication. So one of the goals of our project is to, because as I mentioned, this part of the project involves students from Krakow, actually teacher students, students of English philology. So they are trained to become teachers of English, and students from Clermont-Ferrand, who are learners, basically learners of English as a foreign language. So one of our goals was to create this meaningful, well, a context for meaningful communication, especially to develop these the students, the French students, language skills. So that was one of the goals, and we thought that the communication between the two groups would create this meaningful and authentic context, which is also available between non-native speakers. None of the participating groups, none of the participants in these groups was a native speaker of English, but it doesn't, I think, matter, because you can still create authentic communication context. The second goal was to provide students with intercultural communicative. I'll give them opportunities to develop intercultural communicative competence skills. And as we know, this is one of the goals of language education these days. One more quote, which I think is quite important: the development of learners' intercultural competence should be the core of second language instruction in the age of globalization. By now, I think everybody realizes that. The goal was to develop these students' digital skills, or digital, or perhaps even, to speak broadly, digital literacies, which could be defined as these new types of knowledge associated with digitally saturated social practices. it is stressed in a number of publications that linear alphabetic writing is no longer the primary carrier of literate meaning, and that reducing second language learning to just flat literacies of paper-based resources raises questions of authenticity in second language learning, since students engage increasingly more often in digital online communication. Right, and since this project involved this idea of telecollaboration, just a brief mention of the advantages of telecollaboration. There have been a number of studies carried out which present advantages of telecollaboration. I was also involved in some of them. So we know, by now we know that telecollaboration benefits students in terms of their language development, or language development. Students, while they are working on such projects, they develop intercultural skills, digital skills, and also these could become opportunities for students, teachers to develop their teaching skills. In this particular study, we think we contributed to the knowledge base of issues related to distance collaboration for language learning, and we add to the knowledge of projects which involve groups of non-native speakers collaborating together. So this was so far. This has been a 2-year project, and here we demonstrate how this project supported, as I mentioned, these 3 types of skills and language. We draw conclusions concerning the advantages and limitations of this undertaking and point to ways in which such initiatives, this one and also perhaps others of similar character, can be improved in the future. So I've already mentioned some of these goals, but now is a summary of these goals for Polish and French students. As you can see, they're slightly different because of the levels of it's just this one. So, sorry. Such things can happen. Basically, this was an evaluation study which took place over the period of 4 semesters, as I mentioned, and we evaluated these opportunities. Which you can see, I've already mentioned them, so I won't dwell on that. Who were the participants? Our groups were much smaller, so there were altogether 49 Polish students. They followed their Master of English program at, as you can see, quite a high level of English, and French students were undergraduates and postgraduates at this university with a lower level A2 or B1 level of English. So we looked at qualitative and quantitative data, basically mostly qualitative. However, there was a survey included, and we also looked at the artifacts, the digital artifacts. Somebody's calling, probably it's Simon. Hello? No, it's not him. It's probably Hugo. Right. 4 tasks in this project. The first one was about comparing educational systems in Poland and France. The second task involved students to encourage students especially Polish students, to teach the French English. So all Polish students were acting as teachers in English to their French partners. There was a virtual Erasmus exchange, so we asked the students to imagine what would it be like if you actually went to live and study in Clermont, and the French students were asked to imagine what would it be like to live and study in Krakow. And we asked them to find as much as possible about living and studying in the town. The fourth task was about, the French students were making videos, not documentaries, but videos in which they would be using English. These were scenes and different kinds of. And the task of the Polish to improve the language. That was the type of cooperation. Those formal communication in school document. So what instead was to actually write text. In one of the tasks, in the virtual Erasmus exchange task, they described their university, their town, and they answered questions about the town. Or rather, answered questions about their own town and asked questions about the town. But this communication wasn't only limited to text, because students also recorded videos. This is a screenshot video recorded by a group of Polish students who actually documented their way to university from where they lived, to show French partners what it's like to live here and to daily commute to the college. They used their mobile phone cameras. Another way in which the students communicated was through Facebook. This is an extract from such a Facebook chat. Ask about sources of link to the paper. Generally, we observed 3 scenarios which describe this communication. In the first scenario, both partners are active, formally and informally. And what happened really was that it started with joint sort of efforts on the task. Students were collaborating on the task, but then they moved to discussing personal issues, sometimes in French. So that's one scenario. The second scenario, probably the most common, in fact, is sticking to the task. Students set the task, what or Krakow. So they answer each other questions aimed at retrieving information in an efficient way. So they do it, and that's it. And in this third scenario, there's little contact between partners, and sometimes a lack of affinity. Students have very little in common, and they see no incentive in contacting the partner. Sometimes it leads to some kind of disappointment, because the student might be actually investing quite a lot in terms of emotional engagement. This student said, well, I thought it would be a friendly conversation exchange, but they hardly ever. This can happen too. Right. Intercultural knowledge and skills. So we carried out a survey after this virtual Erasmus exchange task, and we found that the students said they learned quite a lot, much, half of them at least, about the path of the institution. Some learned a little, and that's the other half. But also, they shared quite a lot of them. The majority of them shared personal information. So such tasks, even though formal, they need to share personal information. And also they explored the topic further by visiting the websites, which told them more about architecture. In terms of the development of their digital skills, we found out through the interviews, especially interviews, we found that This distance communication led them to realize these limitations, advantages and limitations of using CMC tools. Well, for example, they started with emails or chats, but at some point they realized, well, this is quite limiting, because probably if we communicated through video, we would probably get to know the person better and help us to communicate more efficiently. Email is impersonal. But at the same time, they appreciated the video was a very good, convenient channel, well, good channel of communication, but still some of them found it inconvenient because they didn't know how to use it, and they said, well, we have to find time, schedule special time slots for Skype, and this is quite inconvenient because you have to find the same time slot, you and your partner, or maybe prepare yourself by putting on makeup or something like that. The students, that's what students said. We learned that, especially, well, we knew that Facebook is important to young people, that it's also important in such, well, educational exchanges too. One student said not using Facebook was a mistake because he observed that other people used Facebook, he only used email, and others were more efficient in communication. One important thing is that they noted this reduced bandwidth communication, this kind of effect, because they said, we know so very little about these people, we get to know them not very well, because we use these emails or chats or some or the textual channels of communication. They didn't see the body language. Those who didn't use video, they didn't hear the tone of the voice, and this sort of, they felt that the communication was so much more limited because of this. What I'm just going to ask, because Simon wanted to say something on this slide, but I'm not sure he's
hello.
He's actually there. Hello.
Yeah, I can speak Simon? If you like. Yes, I'm here.
Okay. Yeah. Hello.
Yes. Hello.
Hello. Can you tell us about the how to improve this? Can you hear us?
Yes, I can hear you. Yes, I think the first thing is it's very important to have time, because it's a question of developing a culture. And this is something that we've been doing over a period of 4 years. So it takes a lot of time. And people have to get used to the idea that no, the classroom walls don't exist. And yes, there are people out there who can actually communicate with them. So that takes a lot of time for teachers and for students to actually understand. So I think this aspect of normalization is very important. I think the other problem is actually to be able to picture and identify with people that you've never met. At the moment, you can't see this, but I'm chatting with my friend Keith in Florida about coffee, because it's 6:30 in the morning in Florida, probably, or 7 o'clock now, and it's quite difficult to do that. So those are skills which people need to develop, and we've talked a lot about digital natives, but they don't actually exist. We all have to learn, we have to learn this together. Thank you, Marcin.
Okay, I'll just add one more thing, little thing, this importance of face-to-face contacts, because a number of students in the interview said that if they came here or we went there, it would greatly facilitate the contacts. And this kind of theme was present in, I would say, half of the interviews. So there was a strong need to visit physically and see and overcome this reduced bandwidth communication. So overall...
Can I butt in, Marcin? Hello?
Can't hear you.
Hello?
Yes, we can hear you.
Right, can I butt in a moment?
No. Okay, so this will be the last thing because we have to finish. Go on, Simon.
Yeah, simply to say that coming to Poland changed dramatically my ability to actually work with Marcin, and I think he would say the same thing the other way around.
I'm not sure if you heard it. He visited Krakow, and I think it added a lot. And the next step is planning, and is to Krakow. This is what they have to already within Klavier, between Warwick and Kleban. Thank you very much.